Hello and welcome. My name is Andy Salkeld and this is PhDear Diary and my video blog and diary during the time of undertaking a PhD in psychology at Leeds Beckett University. We're on week 26 now. It's very much blurring together, which means we're halfway through a year, which is terrifying. I've only just realized this, and it is hitting me that we are half a year into this 3 to 4 year project, and it feels like not a lot has happened, but actually an awful lot has happened in getting to this process. Obviously there's 26 weeks more recordings of this, or 25 weeks prior to this one, 26 including this one, which kind of detail the process in general. But we're actually in a really good place right now. And I know last week I was kind of not a bit down, but a bit almost confrontational, standoffish about where we were. But swings and roundabouts, things change. I'm feeling more positive about it. I think where I am right now, I'm in the scariest, most terrifying part of the research process, which is recruiting participants to take part in your study. Because as much as as good as scientist you can be, as good as theorist you can be, building out kind of the right theoretical models, the right ideas, the right hypotheses, as much as you can do all of that perfectly, if you don't have the participants to be involved with it and to give you statistical significance and the correct power in the maths that I'm trying to use, then it doesn't mean anything, because you can't generalize it to a population. You can't say this is the only case. You're very much kind of limited. And that's why this is the scariest part, because if you can't achieve those kind of thresholds, then you can almost be a bit lost in how it works and what it does, etc., etc. So this is the scary part, and I've also hit the scary part at the scariest time of year, because as I have found out recently, most universities seem to close. Well, not close, but everyone goes on holiday in August, and for the whole of August sort of thing. So I had a supervision meeting yesterday. Note, I'm recording this on a Wednesday, not on a Friday, because I've also had to do some other recordings this week, which I'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, I had my supervision meeting yesterday, and both my supervisors, director of study and second supervisor, both were like, yeah, we're both on holiday from tomorrow for all of August, so we'll see you in September. It was like, great, thanks, cheers for that. It's absolutely fine. This is the way it works. It's just because I've hit the anxious part of the study and the workload at the time when people are going to respond the least. And this is the case across most businesses. During July and August, almost nothing happens, because one person's on holiday, then another person's on holiday, then another person's on holiday. And in a team where, say, one person goes off, the first person covers it so nothing happens. Then when the first person comes back, they're correcting everything. They can't pick up others. So it just ends up in this kind of 2 month kind of, well, nothing much is happening, so you can just nudge things along, which is very much what I'm doing. So what I'm doing right now, I've sent an email to kind of the head of the Centre of Psychological Research at Leeds Beckett University saying, you mentioned there might be additional funding. I probably need additional funding to be able to go through this. Can we have a conversation at some point? That's fine. That's kind of in the works. I have sent emails to the various people and organisations that I have spoken to previously about potentially working together and so on. And that's kind of let's see, start nudging that forward. But obviously, they're also on holiday, or in and around holidays, so nothing is going to happen quickly in any of this. So what else have I been doing whilst I'm stuck in this limbo, as it were? Well, firstly, I've been completing Open Science Framework. So this is something I didn't know existed when I kind of got into researching again, but it has really solid kind of roots and reasoning, where we want to create an inclusive science community. We want to enable people to replicate our research, because one of the biggest problems in all of science, and particularly in psychology, is what's referred to as the replicability crisis, because it's almost impossible to replicate the conditions of one study going into the next study. Because when people are involved, there are so many individual differences that it becomes very hard. So what we do, we document everything up front. We kind of say, here are the measures I've used, here are how I've chosen those measures, here is what I have done to here is how you will calculate the parts that will be used as kind of the actual measures that will be tested. Here is the tests you will do, how they will be calculated, etc. So you essentially create almost a portfolio that says, if I give this to someone else, they should be able to replicate what I did precisely, just with a different population of people. And in that way, you can kind of test the validity of what you're doing, because if people can replicate it, then it becomes more valid. So I'm filling in that is it's a painstaking admin process, but it's a necessary process. And I've also been creating a website, so a landing page for my study. Now, you might ask yourself, hold on a minute, you've created a website on Qualtrics, which is where this happens. And it's like, yes, I have. But I now have to go into marketing mode, which means I have to sell and convince people to be interested, which means I need a pretty website. I need a website that people can go, that's interesting, I like that. Or, okay, I can see what's happening here, I want to take part. Or, importantly for me, I want my organisation to take part. So I want to be able to direct individuals who may be finance directors or people who work in the accounting profession, or just other business owners and leaders. I want to be able to direct them to the website and say, hey, if you're interested in taking part in my study as an organisation, I'll create a link for you, and then you can have the results back for just your organisation. You can have the full results as well, because obviously the full results will be published, whether on my website or in hopefully a scientific journal at some point. But in general, we like the total results will be put out into the world, but actually the specific results for a company can be given to just that company. And in that way, they can get some insight back. So what I've been doing, and why I'm recording this on Wednesday, is I've just been recording an intro website, an intro video. It's about 5-6 minutes long. People can watch it and be like, that sounds interesting, I like that, I'd like to take part. And I'm going to have that at the top page of the website. I'm going to have that as a tool to put on social media, on kind of a way to say, hey, if you'd like to take part, if you'd like your organisation to take part, please watch this video, please read my website or the web page it's on, and please feel free to get in contact and we can set something up. And in that way, I can suddenly be like, right, well, now one person can do it, and then if they're interested, they can say, we did this, it's great, blah, blah, blah. We did this, it's great, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly you can get that kind of the social media effect of kind of it cascading. You do it well once with one company, then you do it well once with another company, and then suddenly they're like, oh wow, this is fascinating, let's keep going. And that's very much where I am. So I've been putting in a lot of time. It's back of house stuff. So it's admin in the form of OSF. It's kind of logistics and funding in the form of speaking to the director of the Centre of Psychological Research, and it's preparing for marketing. And I need to get all these things done before I actually start the study. And whilst everyone's on holiday in August, this is a great time for me to just kind of push that forward and keep going. So I can get all this boring stuff done whilst no one's around, and then be like, right, let's do this, let's go. And we've got 4 months run of solid recruitment all the way up until the end of the year. And that's my window to really push this. And I'm going to kind of re-engage once I've got all these things set up and I can actively have a web page that people would be interested in looking at, that people would enjoy reading, and that they can say, you know what, that's interesting, I'd like to be a part of that. Then I'll be good to go. And obviously I want to get the funding so that I can do the prolific recruitment and all sorts of things like this. So that's very much where I am. And it's not the most enjoyable topics. I am not great at any of these. Marketing I find very hard. Sales I find very hard. And I lack the attention to detail and kind of rigor to really do the kind of admin-y prep stuff and the OSF part to a level that I'm comfortable with, which sounds weird, but like I want it to be more detailed than it is, but my ability to do that is very light. So I'm struggling with this bit. And also because there's no one around and there's no kind of fixed deadline, it just spreads. It spreads everywhere, over everything, and I'm doing a bit here, a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there. But it's happening, and it's moving forward. And I'm going to try and take some time during August to just relax a bit on things. I will still record these, but I think what I will do during that time is I'll make them more of a social kind of reflection piece, where it's like, okay, well, let's look back at where we've come. Let's look back at all the things we've done, all the preparation work, talk about what I'm experiencing. Because obviously one of the reasons I was creating this video to begin with is people may want to actually analyze it and see what happens to a person during the course of a PhD. And I think it's important, if that's one of my motives for doing this, as well as a form of entertainment, as a form of documentation for myself. I think if that's one of my motives, I actually need to go into how it's affecting me. So I'll probably talk about that. I'll talk about my social life, what I'm doing there a bit more, and just kind of go that way. Now, that's kind of where we're at with the PhD. Everything's just in this holding pattern, as it's called. So yeah, there's not that much that's going on there. In the rest of my life, things are okay. I'm still at the gym. I am still seeing a personal trainer. It's weird because as I look at the camera of me now, I'm like, actually, I feel for once kind of comfortable in my own skin and happy with how I look. I still have excess weight, but I actually feel I look better than I have done in a while. Maybe it's a psychological thing, maybe it's not, but I've been running or cross training every day for about 6 months now. 7 months now. I started in January and I've been doing it, say, 5 times a week for 300 to 500 calories a day. I feel better for that. I feel better for going to a personal trainer. I don't necessarily feel stronger, but I feel that I have pushed myself physically and actually looking at the screen now, at myself, I'm like, okay, have I lost weight? You can go back and look at the videos and see whether this image has shrunk or not. I still have a lot of weight here, but ultimately that is the hardest weight to shift in general. So that's kind of where that is. Hobby-wise, I have almost finished painting my 8 Zephyrim that I'm going to be using at the tournaments over the next couple of weeks. I really can't be bothered kind of deep diving into other sisters lists and things like that. I'm very comfortable with my 2x10 Retributor bricks and going up to 2x8 Zephyrim for more combat punch. I'm happy with the list. I've not really tweaked it much since Goonhammer, other than putting in more Zephyrim. I still need to finish off my 20 Bladegeist Revenants that I just haven't, and then I will have a full Age of Sigmar army painted, ready to play. So that's one of my aims, is have that done as quickly as possible so that I can play on that. Then I finished my Necromunda gang, so I'm going to start setting up to run a Necromunda campaign. Broadly, I'm just really enjoying the hobby. I think I mentioned a while back, only like 2 weeks ago, that I got a 3D printer. So I've started looking into 3D printing models, and I'm currently printing a Chaos Space Marine army just to play with, something very small, very compact. It's only like 50 to 60 models, and then that just gives me something to play with, a small project to paint that I can do in a very not lazy style, but just in a, I just want to casually play this on a tabletop with my friends. It's not going to tournaments, it's not a tournament army, it's just something for fun. And I'm pretty happy with how it's turning out. Everything's bespoke, everything's designed to my standards, to fit in with kind of what I like in an army in general. So that's where I am with that. I have started a 3rd playthrough of Elden Ring. I didn't think I would, but I have done, and I'm playing it a very different style. I'm trying to say to myself, I will not play with magic, or I will not play with sorceries. I'll play with incantations and that side of the game, but I have already played with sorceries for 2 playthroughs, so I want to play combat in this one. Now that I'm kind of more used to how it plays and the timing and everything like that, I want to kind of I want to learn something new and play something differently. And that's where life is. It's not overly complicated. There's just a lot of small moving parts that hopefully I'll get responses from in time, and that I'll just keep nudging forward until completion. So that's very much where everything is right now. As I said, during August, this will probably become more of not a casual thing, but just something that it will be more about my life, maybe any small things that have moved forward, just because I think it's important to reflect over time. But anyway, thank you very much for tuning in, and I look forward to speaking to you in a week. Thank you very much.